asking you to get out of your car. He says, I'm not getting out of my car, and I'm not reaching for my gun, nor am I reaching for the knife. My hands are visible for you to see them both. And I'm not going to say anything about getting out of my car until you turn your body cam on. Rightfully so. But
Right.
how many of our Black brothers
Exactly.
don't know to do that?
Exactly.
Right?
Or can say that because they're not an officer. Like, he can
Right.
assert that because he has
Exactly.
the authority to assert that.
Right.
However,
Exactly.
if the average African American male did that, it would be considered resisting.
Yes.
Like think about Eric Gardner. He didn't put up a fight.
No.
He did not put up a fight. Yet he was put in a chokehold that ended in his death because he was selling cigarettes.
Individual cigarettes. Can you believe it?
And so I think what happens is there is an abuse of authority within the police department. And so then this is where it becomes tricky, because I have friends that are police officers. I have friends of color who are police officers, detectives. And the theory of thought that all police officers are bad, or all police officers, even white police officers, misuse their authority is wrong. I think that's the wrong notion. I think the real point is America has a problem of systematic oppression, and in most instances, we are at the helm of injustices placed on us because of the prejudice of someone else in authority. Like
exactly.
Like the overall or the overarching statement is we are subject to someone else's prejudice because they are in a place of authority over us.
Yes, exactly. And it starts with our president. I'm going to just put it out there. It starts with him.
I'm not mad.
And because of his views and his way of supremacy, let's just say it that way, that's diplomatic, right? He okays the injustice. He okays it. He has not done anything to rectify the problem or address the issues. In fact, he took light of George Floyd's death the way that he passed away. And so I just think that, the more we talk about it, the more I get frustrated and irritated by the fact that those that have took an oath to be the mouthpiece for the nation are shutting the mouths of those of the nation. And those that have taken the oath to protect and guard are the ones that are putting the oppression into the necks of our people to the point of death. And they are abusing the authority that they have been given, and they have not taken their oath in the way that they should. They have abused the authority, just as you said. Because I promise you, if they had not been put in a place of authority, and they were just an average man or woman out in the street, if they came across some of our Black brothers and sisters, their disposition would be so much different. But because they hide behind a badge and a lethal weapon that they can use, they traumatize us. And I can't say it's just men, it's women too.
Yeah, of course.
because some of our Black women have been murdered and no justice have been served.
Yeah.
And they sweep it under the rug. Yeah, they sweep it under the rug as if nothing happened. Oh, just another one that died. Sorry. And nothing's happened. Well, we're going to take a break real quick, and we'll be back in a moment. Higher Heights.
Feature your business with a full or half-page ad in an upcoming issue of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine. Advertise your business, book, or event and reach potential clients. Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine covers and features stories in business and entrepreneurship, education, performing arts, sports, community outreach, fashion, travel and real estate, health and wellness, and more. Contact us at info@vnpmagazine.com, or you can reach out to our Director of Sales, Ms. Karon McConnell-Jones, at 202 904-1000. Vision and purpose, inspiring our community.
Welcome back to Higher Heights with your hosts, Prophetess Nichole Jackson and Prophetess Karon Yarborough. This afternoon, we are discussing the racial tension and police brutality within America. And before we took our break, Prophetess Karon, you made a very valid point that it's not just our African-American males, but even our women. And so one of the things that I wanted to highlight was this particular incident of Breonna Taylor. Now, Breonna Taylor is a 26-year-old African-American young lady who was shot and killed in her home, not committing any crime. She was asleep where the police were acting on a no-knock warrant. And so I was having this dialogue about the difficulties in being able to convict, the difficulties of being able to pinpoint where these officers made a mistake. Like when you look at the recorded death of George Floyd, when you look at the recorded death of Eric Garner, when you look at these instances, you can clearly see where the police has overstepped their boundaries, where they have misused their authorities. But when it comes to the African American woman, it happens so subtly that I don't think that it's recognized as police brutality. I think of Sandra Bland, who died in police custody with the thought that she committed suicide. And when you look at the videos of this young lady who was vibrant, who was intelligent, who was articulate, there was nothing about her countenance that said she was suicidal.
Right.
But yet here's another instance where the African-American woman was murdered at the hands of law enforcement, or let's not say she was, but allegedly or potentially murdered at the hands of a law enforcement. Even if we say that they didn't murder her, let's go to the bottom line fact of, well, why was she arrested?
Right. Let's start there.
And then why was she still being detained?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I feel like, ironically, though we may not always be the actual target, something that happens when the African American woman is unjustly prosecuted, and by the hands of police, that it does get swept under the rug. It does just we just kind of glance over it. Why do you think that we take such a passive approach when it comes to the woman?
I think that because the women are being murdered, but they're not being murdered and harassed as much as the men. And I believe there's a spiritual note to that.
Yeah, definitely.
If we can chop down the head, if we can cut the head off, then the rest of the body will fall.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so our women are the neck of the man, if you will, because we have influence, right? But there are times when the woman is more of the alpha person in a relationship than a man is. Prime example, there was the woman that was killed in her apartment that you mentioned. The gentleman, the police officer, came in and had confrontation with her husband, correct? But when the officer went to shoot, he shot her. And not only did he shoot her once, from my understanding, he shot her like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So at some point, she stepped in to have this conversation with the officer who was having a conversation with her husband, right? How do you dismiss the whole incident without addressing, first of all, you were in violation, sir, as an officer, to violate their rights, to even come into their house without a warrant? That's number one. Let's go there.
Let's stop. I think that they did have a warrant However, it was for the wrong address. Like it was for the wrong.
And so they didn't even clarify the address. So then they had that incorrect. But nevertheless, what was the point of drawing your gun and shooting someone who was defenseless? I don't understand that. Where's the rationale behind it? So now people are so quick, these police officers are so quick to jump and pull a gun or laser, what's the point of that? And I think a lot of them, there was one police officer that was a contributing factor to the George Floyd's death. He had only been on the force for 6 months. So if you're out there and you have a fear and you feel intimidated, that's what they say. I have a fear, I feel intimidated, then it's not time for you to go outside there, sir. You should not be on the street. You should be behind somebody's desk pushing some paper.
Maybe you should choose another profession.
Altogether.
Maybe you should choose another profession. It was something that you were saying about the use of a taser and using extreme force that brought to mind Rayshard Brooks, who was also recently killed at the hands of law enforcement. It's just amazing to me, though these things are recorded time after time, that we have been so slow, that we are now finally fed up. Finally fed up. And like in this particular case, and let me just correct that. I think with Breonna Taylor, she was shot 8 times. She was shot 8 times while in her bed. And like with Rayshard Brooks, he was in the parking lot of a Wendy's, trying to sleep off being intoxicated.
Right.
Where I think he had a tussle with the law enforcement officer, but instead of tasing him,
they shot him in the back.
Trying to detain him, they shot him in his back. And then the question becomes for us who have the responsibility to not just uplift humanity, not just to preach on Sundays, not just to preach an encouraging word, but what is our responsibility to this crisis? Because God is a God of justice. His word says that righteousness exalts the nation and sin is a reproach to any people. Matter of fact, you have a whole book of him delivering a people who was oppressed. And so I feel like we have a responsibility to respond to this national crisis. We have a responsibility to provide answers. And so I want to ask you, have you seen leadership? Have you seen have you seen the cross-pollination of different religions, different ethnicities come together to really address this in this hour?
I have seen some just based on the television, because I haven't gone out. I'm still COVID mode. But on TV, from the things that I've seen televised, I see people from different cultures, different walks of life, different ages coming together in a spirit of unity. We have to remember that Psalms 33:5 says, the Lord loves righteousness and justice, and the earth is full of his unfailing love. So there is love in the heart of people, and we do things with a spirit of love. Our motives are right, but there are some people that are out there that are Caucasian, and their motives are not pure. Their motive is hatred and wickedness and planning different things that is not understanding or being empathetic at all. And so, I look at the death of the passing of George Floyd, and the reason why I think a lot of the movement is going as fast and as worldwide as it is because he's an NBA player. Steven Jackson is his name. And it just came across to me. Steven Jackson, which is an NBA player, he's shutting people down. He's like, okay, let me tell you like this. We're gonna take away the sports. We're gonna take that away from you all until justice is served. We're not gonna go out here and play your games. We're not gonna do basketball. We're not going to do golf. We're not going to do any of these sports that you get money from. NASCAR, we cutting that off too. All of these things that you take pleasure in, because we're at the hem of of your supremacy. No, we're gonna take away. And I'm telling you, now that he stepped up and he's being like the